Have you ever noticed those women who walk into a room and suddenly everyone turns to look? It's not the expensive makeup. It's not the perfect body. And it's definitely not luck. There's something much deeper happening. A silent language she masters. A power that most women don't even know they possess. And here's the problem. You're probably doing the exact opposite, sabotaging your own attractiveness without even realizing it. In this video you will discover the 7 specific habits that transform an ordinary woman into someone men can stop thinking about. But here, as the warning, some of these habits will contradict everything you've learned about relationships and attraction. You'll learn why being less available makes you more valuable, how silence can be more powerful than 1,000 words, and what that one behavior is that 99% of women completely ignore, but that changes everything when you master it. If you're tired of being overlooked, of giving more than you receive, or of feeling invisible when it matters most, this video was made for you. In the next few minutes, you will understand exactly how to rewrite your attraction story and start receiving the attention and respect you've always deserved. Before we dive deeper into understanding the psychology of love and what truly creates that magnetic pull between people, it is essential to recognize that what makes a woman irresistible has absolutely nothing to do with luck or genetics. The millionaire mindset understands this principle better than anyone's success. Isn't about waiting for opportunity. It's about mastering specific behaviors that compound over time. Similarly, the psychology of attraction works the same way. Carl Jung, one of history's greatest minds, spent his lifetime studying the depths of human consciousness, and what Jung explains about the psyche reveals something profoundly important. We are largely unaware of our own power. Much of what drives our behavior exists in the unconscious, in the shadow aspects of ourselves that we haven't yet acknowledged or integrated. Consider for a moment the concept that he pulls away not because he doesn't care, but because something within him is resisting connection. This is where the emotional psychology becomes fascinating. When a man secretly loves you, his behavior often contradicts his true feelings. The hidden feelings he carries might manifest as distance, withdrawal, or what appears to be indifference. But here is what most women do understand. These signs he loves you are often disguised as their opposite. He might create emotional distance precisely because he's falling in love, and his unconscious is telling him to protect himself. The psychology of love isn't rational, it's rooted in our deepest fears and our most repressed emotions. Fighting his feelings is something almost every man does when confronted with real, genuine connection, because vulnerability threatens the armor he's built around himself. What makes a woman truly irresistible is her ability to understand this dynamic without needing to decode it constantly. She doesn't need him to prove his feelings through constant communication or dramatic gestures. She understands that emotional attachment can sometimes look like detachment, and that what it really means when he goes silent is that he is processing something deeper within himself. This understanding comes from developing inner power, not the power to control him or manipulate the situation, but the power to remain unshaken by his moods and behaviors. Self-worth isn't something you negotiate or prove to another person. It's something you know so deeply that external validation becomes irrelevant. When a woman possesses this kind of grounded confidence, she creates a psychological safety that paradoxically makes men want to lean in closer. Not poos Hawaii. The emotional control that makes a woman magnetic isn't about suppressing her feelings or becoming cold. Quite the opposite. It is about feeling your emotions fully while refusing to let them dictate your actions or compromise your dignity. The millionaire understands cash flow management. Similarly, a woman who masters her emotional psychology understands energy management. She knows when to give, when to receive, and crucially, when to simply observe and let the other person come to their own conclusions. This is where the concept of silence becomes your greatest ally. Letting go of the need to explain, defend, or convince someone of your worth creates a vacuum that naturally draws people toward you. Silence isn't empty, it's full of power. It's the space where curiosity lives, where questions form, where interest deepens. The unconscious mind of a man is programmed to pursue what seems slightly out of reach, what maintains an element of mystery. When a woman understands this not as a manipulation tactic, but as a genuine expression of her own wholeness, she becomes irresistible. She's not playing hard to get. She's genuinely living a full life that doesn't depend on his participation. She has dreams, passions, ambitions, and a sense of direction that would exist, with or without him. This is the fundamental shift that changes everything. The shadow aspects of your personalities are parts you might consider. Flaws, the vulnerabilities you're afraid to show, the unconventional desires you keep hidden, these actually contain tremendous magnetic power when properly understood through the lens of depth psychology that Jung explains so eloquently in his work. Watch for this sign in your own behavior. Are you constantly seeking reassurance? Are you initiating contact more than he does? Are you the one who's always explaining? Always trying to make the relationship work? Always managing the emotional labor? These patterns indicate that you've abandoned your own center of gravity and made him the gravitational force in your life. What it really means when you do this is that you're actually creating the opposite of attraction. You're creating dependency, which eventually leads to resentment and withdrawal on his part. The emotional psychology here is clear. People are drawn to those who have rich inner lives, who don't need them to feel complete. This doesn't mean being cold or unavailable. It means being warm and present precisely because you choose to be, not because you need to be. The process of falling in love is accelerated when there's an element of pursuit involved. When the man feels he's winning you over through his own efforts and choices. When you do all the work, all the planning, all the emotional management, you rob him of the opportunity to invest in you and thus to fall deeper in love with you. The repressed emotions you might be carrying, perhaps fear of abandonment, fear of not being good enough, fear of being alone, these often drive the behaviors that push men away. Understanding this through the framework of emotional psychology allows you to make different choices. You can feel the fear without acting on it. You can acknowledge the anxiety without letting it dictate your behavior. This is what the millionaire understands about wealth. You don't spend money out of fear. You make intentional decisions from a place of abundance. The same principle applies to your emotional energy and how you distribute it. Building irresistibility, therefore, is about cultivating a deep sense of self-worth that comes from within, not from external validation. It's about understanding that your value isn't negotiable, that you don't need anyone to confirm it for you, and that the moment you truly believe this, everyone around you will believe it too. The psychology of love teaches us that people mirror the beliefs we hold about ourselves. When you secretly know you're valuable, others will feel it and respect it. When you have emotional control rooted in genuine self-worth rather than suppression, you create an attractive presence that's impossible to ignore. This foundation is crucial as it underpins every single habit we're about to explore together in this transformative journey. The first habit that separates irresistible women from everyone else centers on the cultivation of unshakable confidence. And this is where most women get it completely wrong. They believe confidence comes from external achievements, landing the perfect job, having the right body, wearing designer clothes, or securing a committed relationship. But what Jung explains through his depth psychology is that true confidence emerges from the integration of your shadow self, from acknowledging and accepting all parts of yourself, including the ones you deem unworthy. When you understand the unconscious patterns driving your insecurity, you gain power over them. This is the millionaire's secret. They don't wait until they feel confident to take action. They take action, and confidence follows as a natural consequence. The psychology of love operates on the same principle. A woman who walks into a room with genuine self-assurance, not arrogance, but genuine inner knowing, creates an immediate shift in how everyone perceives her. This confidence manifests in how you carry your body, how you meet someone's gaze, how you speak without needing to fill every silence. When he pulls away, a confident woman doesn't spiral into self-doubt. She remains grounded in her worth. This is emotional control at its finest. She doesn't interpret his emotional distance as confirmation of her inadequacy. Rather, she understands that his hidden feelings and his need for space are about his own internal process, his own repressed emotions, and his own fears. The signs he loves you often include moments when he needs distance to process his feelings. What it really means is that he's fighting his feelings, struggling with the vulnerability that comes with falling in love. A woman with inner power doesn't make his journey her responsibility. She maintains her own sense of self-worth, independent of his actions or reactions. This is where the psychology of love becomes clear. The more you chase validation from him, the less he respects you. The more you remain centered in your own value, the more he's drawn to you. Confidence is also about taking up space without apologizing for it. Many women have been conditioned to make themselves smaller, to shrink their ambitions, to dim their light so others feel more comfortable. But this directly undermines your attractiveness and your ability to create the life you deserve. When you speak, do it with intention. Don't rush your words. Let there be weight to what you say. Embrace silence, not as something awkward to fill, but as a powerful tool. This silence creates space for curiosity to grow. Men find themselves wondering what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what depths exist beneath your composed exterior. This is the art of letting go of the need to constantly explain yourself. The millionaire doesn't justify their wealth. Similarly, an irresistible woman doesn't justify her presence or her worth. She exists fully, completely, unapologetically. The second habit involves understanding and mastering your emotional attachment patterns, which ties directly into what Jung explains about the psyche and our unconscious drives. Many women unconsciously recreate patterns from their childhood or past relationships. They might be unconsciously drawn to emotional unavailability because it mirrors what they knew growing up. Or they might pursue men who are emotionally distant because somewhere deep in the unconscious, they believe they must earn love through effort and suffering. This is where the shadow work becomes essential. You must examine your hidden feelings about love, your repressed emotions about your worth, your deepest beliefs about whether you deserve a healthy, reciprocal relationship. The psychology of love reveals that we don't attract what we deserve. We attract what we believe we deserve. If you secretly believe you're not good enough, you'll attract men who confirm that belief. If you believe your worth is tied to your usefulness, you'll attract men who use you. If you believe you must fight for love, you'll attract men who make you fight. Breaking this cycle requires emotional control, the ability to observe your patterns without judgment and make different choices. When he pulls away, instead of pursuing him to prove your worth, you let him go. This seems counterintuitive, but it's powerful psychology. The moment you stop chasing, the dynamic shifts. He becomes aware of your absence. He realizes you have a life that doesn't revolve around him. He begins to wonder if he's losing you. And suddenly, he's the one reaching out. This is the psychology of love in action. What it really means when this happens is that you've reclaimed your emotional power. You've stopped hinging your happiness on his choices and started investing in your own life. The millionaire doesn't need validation from customers. They've already validated their own worth through their own achievements. Similarly, you don't need validation from him. You validate yourself through your own life, your own goals, your own growth. The third habit involves cultivating genuine independence, which is where inner power truly takes root. An irresistible woman has a life that's compelling and full, independent of any relationship. She has passions that light her up. She has friendships that nourish her. She has goals that inspire her. She has a sense of purpose that extends beyond romance. When a woman possesses this, she doesn't need a man to complete her. She might want him, but she doesn't need him. This distinction is everything. The psychology of love shows us that men are attracted to women who are whole unto themselves, not women who are frantically searching for someone to make them whole. When you're searching, you're desperate. When you're demanding, you're needy. When you're whole, you're magnetic. The signs he loves you often include him trying to become part of your world, trying to fit into your life, rather than you constantly reorganizing your world to fit into his. This independence also protects you from the trap of emotional attachment that becomes unhealthy. When you have your own life, your own identity, your own sources of fulfillment, you're not vulnerable to his moods and behaviors in the same way. If you go silent, you're not devastated because silence isn't your enemy, it's his loss. You continue living your life. You continue pursuing your goals. You continue investing in your friendships and your passions. This emotional distance you maintain isn't cold. It's healthy. It's the difference between loving someone and losing yourself to someone. The millionaire maintains boundaries with their money because they understand that boundaries create respect. Similarly, you maintain boundaries with your time, your energy, and your emotions because boundaries create respect and attraction. The fourth habit is about mastering the art of mystery and strategic unavailability, which connects directly to Jung's concept of the shadow and the unconscious. People are drawn to what they cannot fully understand, to what remains slightly hidden, to what maintains an element of the unknown. This isn't about being fake or playing games. It's about honoring your own boundaries and your own life. When a man can access you whenever he wants, when he knows exactly what you're thinking and feeling at all times, when there's no element of surprise or discovery, interest naturally fades. But when there's mystery, when he doesn't know every detail of your life, when he has to wonder what you're doing when you're not with him, when you're not constantly available, his interest intensifies. The psychology of love explains that desire requires scarcity. What it really means is that you must create space within your relationship, not through manipulation, but through genuine living of your own life. Let him wonder. Let him miss you. Let him invest effort to see you. This is where letting go of control becomes your greatest power. The fifth habit that transforms ordinary women into irresistible forces centers on the deliberate cultivation of feminine energy, which Carl Jung explored extensively through his concept of the anima and the integration of masculine and feminine principles within the psyche. Jung explains that both men and women contain both masculine and feminine energies, but society often conditions women to suppress their feminine nature in favor of masculine traits like aggression, control, and constant striving. This creates a fundamental imbalance that actually repels attraction rather than magnetizes it. Feminine energy isn't about weakness or passivity. It's about receptivity, magnetism, flow, and the ability to inspire without force. The psychology of love reveals that men are magnetically drawn to women who embody this energy because it activates something deep within their own psyche their need to provide, to protect, to pursue. When a woman operates from her authentic feminine essence rather than trying to compete in masculine energy, she becomes irresistible at a level that transcends conscious thought. This feminine energy manifests in how you move through the world, in your tone of voice, in your presence, in the way you allow others to contribute and show up for you. Many women sabotage their attractiveness by doing everything themselves, by taking the lead in all interactions, by planning every detail and managing every outcome. While this might create the illusion of control, what it really means is that you're preventing the man from feeling useful, from feeling needed, from experiencing the satisfaction of winning you over. The millionaire understands. Leverage, they don't do all the work themselves. They orchestrate systems where others contribute. Similarly, in relationships, your feminine energy is about orchestrating a dynamic where he feels like he's investing in you, pursuing you, earning you. This doesn't mean being helpless or dependent. It means being smart about where you direct your energy. When he pulls away, your feminine energy doesn't chase him down with explanations and pleas. Instead, it withdraws gracefully, maintaining dignity while silently showing him what he's missing. The sixth habit involves mastering the art of emotional communication while maintaining emotional control, which directly addresses the hidden feelings and repressed emotions that sabotage most relationships. The psychology of love teaches us that vulnerability is attractive, but indiscriminate vulnerability is destructive. There's a difference between opening your heart and dumping your emotional baggage on someone. An irresistible woman understands this distinction. She can express her feelings without becoming hysterical. She can show her emotions without losing her composure. She can share her vulnerability without making it his responsibility to fix her. This is the emotional psychology at its most sophisticated. When you're fighting his feelings, or when he secretly loves you but pulls away, an irresistible woman doesn't respond by becoming more demanding or more emotional. She responds by becoming more composed, more mysterious, more focused on her own emotional stability. The signs he loves you often appear after you've demonstrated that you don't need his love to feel complete. Communication within this framework becomes an art form. You speak less, but with more intention. You say things that create curiosity rather than things that close conversation down. When he asks questions, you don't spill everything immediately. You create intrigue through strategic revelation. The unconscious mind responds to what's withheld more powerfully than to what's given freely. Think about a mystery novel, though pages you have unread yet are always more compelling than the pages you've already finished. Your life should feel like that to him. There's always something more to discover, always another layer to understand, always new dimensions emerging. This is where silence becomes your most powerful communication tool. Letting go of the need to fill every pause to explain yourself to convince him of your worth. This silence creates space for him to fill with his own conclusions, his own realizations about who you are and how valuable you are. The seventh and most transformative habit involves integrating your shadow self and developing unshakable self-worth, rooted in the unconscious acceptance of your complete self. This is where Jung's work becomes absolutely essential. The shadow contains all the parts of yourself that you've deemed unacceptable: your ambition, your sexuality, your anger, your neediness, your jealousy, your darkness. Most women spend their entire lives trying to hide these aspects, trying to present only the acceptable version of themselves. But this creates a fundamental fragmentation of self that weakens your magnetism. When you integrate your shadow, when you acknowledge and accept all parts of yourself without judgment, you become whole. And wholeness is irresistible. A woman who doesn't need to hide from herself, doesn't need to hide from others. She's not constantly vigilant, exhausted from maintaining a false persona. She's relaxed, authentic, and paradoxically, this authenticity is what makes her magnetic. This integration also means understanding and accepting your own patterns of attachment, your own fears, your own repressed emotions, without being controlled by them. The emotional attachment you feel toward someone doesn't have to lead you to chase them or diminish yourself for them. You can feel deeply while maintaining your boundaries. You can love someone while also being willing to let them go if they do you and reciprocate your investment. This is the millionaire's approach to relationships. They diversify their emotional portfolio. They put all their emotional eggs in one basket and then desperately try to make it work. They maintain multiple sources of meaning, connection, and fulfillment. When he pulls away, a woman with integrated shadow doesn't interpret it as a personal rejection. She understands that his emotional distance, his hidden feelings, his resistance might be about his own fears, his own repressed emotions, his own unconscious wounds. This understanding creates compassion without codependency. The practice of letting go becomes your superpower when you've integrated your shadow. You can release the outcome of a situation without releasing your worth. You can watch someone walk away without thinking it diminishes your value. The psychology of love shows us that the moment you become detached from the outcome, you become attached to your power. What it really means when he goes silent is that he's processing something within himself. Not that you've done something wrong. When he pulls away, it's not because you're not good enough. It's because something in him is afraid or confused or resistant. A woman who understands the emotional psychology at this level doesn't take his behavior personally. She observes it with curiosity rather than judgment. She maintains her inner power and her self-worth independent of his actions. The perhaps most crucial understanding is that irresistibility is unable being perfect or being everything a man wants. It's about being authentically, unapologetically yourself while maintaining healthy boundaries and investing in your own growth and fulfillment. The millionaire doesn't try to be everything to everyone. They focus on their unique value proposition. Similarly, an irresistible woman doesn't try to be everything to every man. She's fully herself and lets the right man recognize her value. The psychology of love reveals that men don't fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with authenticity mixed with strength. They fall in love with women who know their worth and don't negotiate it. They fall in love with women who have lives so compelling that they want to be part of them rather than women who are waiting around for them to make their lives meaningful. As you implement these 7 habits, you'll notice shifts happening at both the conscious and unconscious levels. People will start treating you differently because you're treating yourself differently. Men will pursue you more because you're no longer pursuing them. Opportunities will appear because you're no longer desperate. Respect will follow because you're respecting yourself first. This isn't magic. It's psychology. It's understanding how the human mind works, how attraction functions, and how to align your behavior with the principles that create genuine, lasting magnetism. The journey to becoming irresistible begins not with changing who you are, but with becoming fully, completely, authentically who you already are, while maintaining the boundaries and dignity that honor your worth. This is the secret that millionaires, psychologists, and the most magnetic women in the world all understand. Your power comes from within, and once you claim it, everything in your external reality shifts to reflect that internal transformation. The implementation of these 7 habits requires a deep understanding of how the unconscious mind operates and how your internal beliefs directly shape your external reality. Carl Jung spent decades researching the mysteries of the psyche. And what Jung explains through his groundbreaking work is that we're constantly operating from beliefs and patterns that exist below the surface of our conscious awareness. Most women don't realize that their struggle with attraction and relationships isn't actually about their appearance or their intelligence. It is about the unconscious programming they absorb from their family, their culture, and their past experiences. When you examine the psychology of love at this deeper level, you begin to understand that what it really means when someone rejects you or when he pulls away has nothing to do with your actual worth. It's about his own internal struggles, his own repressed emotions, his own unconscious fears about vulnerability and connection. The millionaire understands that external circumstances are simply reflections of internal beliefs. If you believe you're not worthy of premium treatment, you'll accept mediocre treatment. If you believe relationships require you to sacrifice yourself, you'll choose partners who demand that sacrifice. The first step in implementing these habits is to become brutally honest about your own hidden feelings regarding love, relationships, and your value as a woman. What messages did you receive growing up about what it means to be desirable? What does your unconscious believe about whether you deserve effortless love and attention? Do you secretly believe you have to work hard, perform, constantly prove yourself to be worthy of love? These are the shadow aspects of your psyche that Jung explains create so much of your suffering. The emotional psychology tells us that we don't attract what we deserve based on objective measures. We attract what we believe we deserve at an unconscious level. If you secretly love yourself unconditionally, people will love you. If you secretly doubt yourself, people will sense that doubt and doubt you too. This is why the emotional control that an irresistible woman possesses begins with internal work before it manifests externally. You must examine your repressed emotions and bring them into consciousness where you have power over them. Start by creating a practice of daily affirmation and visualization that rewires your unconscious mind, but not the superficial affirmations that most people use. Instead, create statements that directly counter your deepest fears and insecurities. If your shadow self believes you're not good enough, create an affirmation that says something like, "My worth is inherent and unchangeable. I don't need anyone's validation to confirm what I already know about myself." Repeat this, not to convince your conscious mind. Conscious mind might not believe it, but to slowly reprogram your unconscious. The psychology of love shows us that our unconscious drives about 95% of our behavior. You can consciously know you shouldn't chase a man, but if your unconscious is programmed to believe you must earn love through effort, you'll find yourself chasing anyway. By working at the unconscious level, you change the root, not just the branches. This is what the millionaire does with their belief systems. They reprogram themselves to think like a successful person before they become one. Similarly, reprogram yourself to think like an irresistible woman before you fully become one. The second implementation strategy involves deliberately practicing the art of letting go in small, manageable ways that gradually build your capacity for detachment. This doesn't mean emotional detachment from your feelings. It means detachment from outcomes and from your obsessive need to control how others perceive you. Start with something small. If you typically text a man first, stop initiating for 1 week and observe what happens. Notice the anxiety that arises. This anxiety is your shadow self speaking. It's the emotional control you're building here isn't about suppressing that fear. It's about feeling the fear while choosing different behavior anyway. Watch for this sign in yourself. The moment you feel the urge to reach out, to explain yourself, to fix things, that moment is where your power lies. That's where you can choose differently. The millionaire doesn't panic when the market drops. They understand the emotional psychology of fear, and they act from wisdom rather than emotion. Similarly, you must learn to observe your own emotional reactivity and choose conscious action instead. As you practice these habits, understand that he pulls away sometimes, not because something is wrong with you, but because he is processing his own feelings. His own hidden feelings about vulnerability, his own repressed emotions about connection. The signs he loves you might actually manifest as withdrawal because falling in love threatens his sense of control and independence. When you understand the psychology of love this deeply, you stop personalizing his behavior. His emotional distance becomes information rather than rejection. What it really means when he asks fighting his feelings is that he asks having a very human experience of fear. An irresistible woman doesn't need him to be constantly available or constantly reassuring. She's secure enough to allow him his process while remaining secure in her own worth. This is where the emotional attachment you feel becomes a strength rather than a weakness. You can be emotionally attached while maintaining emotional control. You can care deeply while maintaining your boundaries. The unconscious fear that most women have is that maintaining boundaries means losing the relationship. But the truth is, the opposite, maintaining boundaries, is what actually creates the conditions for real, lasting connection. The third implementation strategy involves surrounding yourself with people and environments that reinforce your sense of inner power and self-worth. The millionaire carefully curates their environment because they understand that they directly influence their thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. Similarly, you must audit your social circle and your environment. Are the people around you lifting you up or tearing you down? Are they celebrating your independence or pressuring you to find a man to complete you? Do they reinforce your belief in your worth or do they enable your insecurity? Begin distancing yourself from relationships that drain your energy and intensifying relationships that nourish you. The psychology of love tells us that we are social creatures, and that our social environment deeply influences our emotional state and our attractiveness. When you surround yourself with people who genuinely respect and admire you, you internalize that respect. You begin to see yourself through their eyes. This is where the shadow work continues. You're literally replacing the negative introjects from your childhood with healthier ones from your current environment. The fourth implementation strategy is to develop a robust life outside of romantic relationships. This is perhaps the most powerful thing an irresistible woman can do. Create goals that have nothing to do with finding a man or being in a relationship. These could be career goals, creative projects, fitness ambitions, travel plans, educational pursuits, or anything that genuinely excites you. The millionaire doesn't wait until they have enough money to start living well. They live well while building their wealth. Similarly, don't wait until you're in a relationship to build a compelling life. Build your compelling life now, and relationships will naturally be attracted to that energy. When you're genuinely invested in your own growth and your own fulfillment, you give off an energy that's absolutely magnetic. You're not desperate. You're not needy. You're not looking to a man to save you or complete you. You're whole. You're growing. You're moving forward. This is the energy that the unconscious mind of men responds to. This is what creates real desire. When he pulls away, you don't spiral because your life doesn't revolve around him. When he goes silent, you don't panic because you're busy with your own projects and your own growth. The most essential implementation practice is to commit to ongoing self-examination and emotional growth. The psychology of love shows us that as you evolve, your relationships will evolve. As you heal your repressed emotions and integrate your shadow, the quality of your relationships will improve. This isn't a destination where you arrive and then you're done. It's an ongoing process of becoming more conscious, more integrated, more whole. Each time you notice yourself falling into old patterns, chasing someone who's pulling away, making yourself smaller, abandoning your own needs, pause, and ask yourself what's happening at the unconscious level. What belief is driving this behavior? What fear am I trying to manage? What need am I trying to meet through this action? By bringing conscious awareness to your patterns, you gradually reprogram your unconscious. The hidden feelings that once controlled you become visible, and visible things can be changed. The emotional control that characterizes an irresistible woman isn't innate. It's cultivated through this ongoing practice of awareness and deliberate choice. This is the real secret that the millionaire knows, and that most people never discover. Transformation happens through consistent, conscious action, aligned with your deepest values and your authentic self. Your irresistibility isn't something you become, it's something you reveal by removing everything that obscures it. Begin today. Understanding the deeper mechanics of how attraction functions requires us to examine the neurobiological and psychological foundations that Carl Jung spent his career exploring, and what Jung explains about the human psyche reveals that attraction operates on multiple levels. Simultaneously, the psychology of love isn't confined to romantic gestures or physical attraction. It encompasses the entire ecosystem of how human beings interact, communicate, and influence each other's nervous systems. When we talk about the millionaire mindset, we're essentially talking about someone who understands the laws of value exchange and supply and demand. In relationships, the same principles apply. The moment you become abundant emotionally, spiritually, professionally, you become valuable in a way that no amount of physical perfection can replicate. This abundance isn't about arrogance or superiority. It's about having such a full internal life that you don't require someone else to validate your existence. The unconscious mind of a potential partner immediately recognizes this abundance, and it creates an irresistible pull. When he pulls away, what it really means is that he's recognizing a gap between your energy and his. An irresistible woman doesn't try to close that gap by diminishing herself. She maintains her frequency and allows him the opportunity to rise to meet her or to walk away. The emotional psychology at play here involves understanding the concept of what psychologists call anxious attachment versus secure attachment. Most women operate from anxious attachment without even realizing it. They're hypervigilant to a man's moods, his messages, his availability. They interpret his emotional distance as a sign that they need to do more, be more, try harder. This creates a vicious cycle where the more anxious they become, the more he pulls away, and the more he pulls away, the more anxious they become. The repressed emotions driving this anxiety usually stemmed from childhood experiences where love felt conditional or inconsistent. Perhaps a parent was emotionally unavailable, or love was used as a reward for good behavior. These hidden feelings get buried in the unconscious, and they drive relationship patterns decades later. When you're falling in love with someone, these old wounds get activated. You find yourself desperately seeking reassurance, fighting his feelings about commitment, trying to convince him that you're worthy of his time and attention. But here, as what the psychology of love reveals, a man who is fighting his feelings about you is ungoing to be convinced by your efforts. He needs space to process his own repressed emotions, his own fears about vulnerability and loss. An irresistible woman understands this and gives him that space without losing her own center. Developing secure attachment, which is the hallmark of an irresistible woman, requires what Jung calls individuation, which is the process of becoming fully yourself by integrating all aspects of your personality, including your shadow. The shadow contains your anger, your ambition, your sexuality, your need for space, your selfishness, all the parts that society tells women they shouldn't have. When you reject these parts of yourself, when you hide them, you fragment your psyche. This fragmentation is exhausting and it's noticeable. People can sense when you're not being authentic, when you're performing a version of yourself rather than being yourself. The millionaire doesn't pretend to be poor. They own their success. Similarly, an irresistible woman doesn't pretend to be less than she is. She owns her ambition, her sexuality, her intelligence, her strength. When she's silent, it's not because she has nothing to say. It's because she's choosing her words carefully. When she's emotionally controlled, it's not because she doesn't feel deeply. It's because she feels so deeply that she can afford to be discerning about who receives her emotional energy. The signs he loves you often appear when he recognizes that you're not trying to change him or convince him. You're simply being yourself and allowing him to decide whether he wants to be part of that. The practice of letting go becomes exponentially more powerful when you understand that it's not about rejection of him. It's about reverence for yourself. When you maintain boundaries, when you don't chase, when you create emotional distance, you're not being cold or withholding. You're protecting your own energy and your own peace. The emotional attachment that develops in relationships can become toxic when it's one direction, when you're investing more than you're receiving, when you're managing his emotions while neglecting your own. The unconscious pattern that drives this is often the belief that love requires sacrifice, that you must earn affection through suffering or service. But real love isn't transactional. Real love is an exchange of energy where both people are choosing, both people are investing, both people are showing up. When he pulls away consistently, when his hidden feelings never translate into consistent action, when he's repeatedly fighting his feelings instead of moving toward you, the irresistible woman recognizes this as information. What it really means is that he's not in a place to be the partner you deserve. And instead of trying to convince him otherwise, she simply lets him go. The neurochemistry of attraction also plays a crucial role that the psychology of love sometimes overlooks. When you're obsessed with someone, when you're constantly thinking about them and monitoring their behavior, you're actually flooding your brain with dopamine and norepinephrine in unhealthy ways. This creates a biological addiction to that person. The emotional control that an irresistible woman maintains isn't just psychological. It has real neurological benefits. When you're not constantly thinking about a man, when you're not checking your phone every 5 minutes for his messages, when you're investing your mental energy in your own goals and your own growth, your brain chemistry normalizes. You become clearer, sharper, more magnetic. The millionaire understands that focus creates results. If you're focused on building your own empire, you attract partners who respect that focus. If you're focused on a man, you attract men who exploit that focus. The unconscious mind picks up on where your energy is directed, and it responds accordingly. When you pull your energy back and redirect it toward your own life, people feel that shift immediately. The concept of the anxious avoidant trap is crucial to understand when implementing these habits. Many women attract avoidant men who pull away, who are emotionally unavailable, who have repressed emotions they've never processed. The psychology explains that anxious women are attracted to avoidant men because on some level, their unconscious recognizes familiarity. Perhaps they grew up with an emotionally unavailable parent, and now they're unconsciously trying to win the love they couldn't win as children. The repressed emotions from childhood get projected onto the adult relationship. When the signs he loves you include him pulling away while occasionally showing affection, the anxious woman interprets this as a challenge to be conquered rather than as information about his capacity for relationship. An irresistible woman recognizes this pattern and she doesn't engage with it. She doesn't try to heal a man's emotional wounds. She doesn't try to convince him that he's capable of love. She simply observes that he's not showing up in the way she deserves, and she chooses differently. This is where the emotional distance you maintain becomes your greatest asset. You're not cold to him. You're just not available for his confusion. You're not rejecting him. You're just not willing to wait for him to figure out his own feelings. The piece of this puzzle involves understanding that irresistibility is unstaticate. A practice that you maintain through consistent choices. The millionaire doesn't become successful and then stop working. They maintain their success through ongoing strategy and adaptation. Similarly, an irresistible woman doesn't achieve this state and then relax into complacency. She maintains her irresistibility through consistent investment in her own growth, her own boundaries, her own life. Each time you choose yourself over the person who doesn't choose you, you strengthen your sense of inner power. Each time you maintain silence, instead of explaining yourself, you deepen your mystery. Each time you invest in your own goals instead of abandoning them for a relationship, you reinforce yourself. The psychology of love shows us that this consistency is what transforms temporary attraction into lasting desire. A man might be initially drawn to you because of your appearance, but he stays because of who you are and how you make him feel about himself. When you're secure, grounded, and fully engaged in your own life, you make him feel like he's lucky to be included in that life. You don't make him feel obligated. You make him feel privileged. This is the ultimate expression of what an irresistible woman embodies. She's not trying to attract anyone. She is simply living so fully that people couldn't help but want to be part of her world. If you wish to master the psychology of love and decode his hidden feelings, I've placed a private guide in the first pinned comment to restore your inner power. Click the link below to finally understand what it really means when he retreats into silence. Take control of your self-worth and end the emotional distance between you today. If today's practice felt powerful, there is one specific psychological trap I detailed in my previous video that could still be neutralizing your signal. It explains exactly what happens in his unconscious when you stop chasing a perspective most people completely miss. Watch it next to ensure your self-worth remains unshakable while the results manifest.